lounging, son.
Welcome back to the Comic Lounge. My name's Ryan, and with me today, I have Jen, who you know from our Thought Balloon episodes. We did, she's guested on the podcast. Dylan's taking a break, so Jen's joining me, and we're going to be talking about a book that I know Jen loves, Little Bird. That was the first review she wrote for the site for issue 1. She wrote a review for the trade. She kept telling me to read this book. It took me forever, and when I did read it, I fucking loved this book. So why not talk about it together on the podcast? And since you love this book so much, you're going to take the lead.
Yes, of course. So Little Bird, it's amazing. It's also something that I have a hard time describing because I feel like it's very unique and it like no matter what words I use to describe it, it doesn't like render justice. It's so complex in a way. But yeah, Little Bird, it's written by I'm not sure how to pronounce his name. Darcy Van Polgeest. It is the artist is Jan Bertram. The colors are done by Matt Hollingsworth. The letters are done by Aditya Bidikar. And it's published by Image Comics. And yeah, this story first came out in singles, and I think when it first came out, they announced that it was only going to be like a short story in singles. Then they came out with a hardcover that I have, and then after that, it was so popular that they came out with a trade paperback. So that's something very interesting about that story. And yeah, so it's the story about like a revolution, like a rebellion, and you have Little Bird, which is our principal character. She's a little girl, and she's basically thrown into this war against like super religious like a super religious society who just wants to take control of everything. And she lives in a small like village with her mother, and they're more like inspired by Native American style. It's a little bit more like traditional, and they're basically fighting against this big religious society who just wants to take control of everything in the name of the Lord, which is very extreme and over the top. And they're just like, it's the perfect example, not example, but like starting a war in the name of God, but obviously it's not in the name of God, it's just to like be powerful, but they're putting everything under the name of God. And that's something very interesting. As a story, I think they talk about that subject very well. I think you can really see how it's taken over the top and how it's really it's like it's really a good description of how religious belief with a bad intention can like take over a whole like society in a bad way. And it's just really interesting to see that contrast against like a Native American inspired culture versus that over the top religious culture just like clashing together to create that war. And I think it's really well written. That for me, the writing was what like stood out for me. And again, after that, the art is like fantastic, and I have no way of describing the art in this book. I don't know how to describe the style. It's just amazing, but I don't think it's for everyone. So you have to like be careful. Like I would strongly recommend looking at pictures before getting this book, because I don't think this art is for everyone. But it's really amazing and really like unique.
He's phenomenal. I think that this is the type of art that I've been gravitating towards the last few years.
Yeah.
It's stuff that's, I would describe it as highly stylized, right? Like it is his style. There's no mistaking it. There's not like, oh, this is this person.
Yeah.
No, it's like, I would say the same thing with like Jock, right? Like, when you're looking at Jock's art or Sean Phillips, it's just them. You're not seeing something else. And Ian Bertram's art, like the writing was good, don't get me wrong, but the art is just...
The art is fantastic.
I found myself like, normally I can read a 5-issue book fucking fast, but I was like staring at the panels, at the detail. The level of detail is fucking insanity. Like just the page I flipped to, like the dude that's like the leader, right? He's like laying in a bath of blood with like all these like worm type things coming out of it. It's fucking creepy. But
But
I
I think it's
love,
a good use of gore. It's really gory. Like the
yeah,
story is really and the art is really like there's a lot of blood, there's a lot of gory element, but it's well used. Like it's not it doesn't take away from the story. It just brings another element to the story. It brings like this creepiness to the story.
it's funny you say that because that's how Invincible is to me.
Yeah.
Like, that book is very gory, but it's not gory in the sense where it, like, you don't look at it like, oh, you're just trying to fucking show really disgusting stuff. No, you're just trying to show the visceralness of certain scenes, and it kind of just heightens the mood that you feel when you're reading it and you're watching somebody's face be fucking like smashed over, and like you just keep seeing more and more fucking like the eye just, it's kind of like, I mean, I don't know if you've watched the show
No.
yet, but holy shit, that is such a good adaptation of the comic book. Like, I have no complaints as a huge fan of that book that's read it. It'll be my fourth time that I'm going through it right now.
We'll
But
talk
I
about
love,
it later.
yeah, but I love Little Bird. I think that her design is really cool. Like, it's not something that you would, it's not a normal hero
Yeah.
design, right? She's just like really bulky looking, but she's fucking badass. And,
I really
and
love in the first issue when she like takes the fur out of the wolf and just like wears it, but you don't see her wearing it. You just like assume by you see like the carcass the dead body of the wolf and then you see her later like full of blood and everything. It's just like a lot of details in this book is like you see it but it's not shown. Like you assume, you know? And
yeah,
that's a really good strength of the book.
I know. I flipped to that page where she's just got the wolf over her and the blood dripping down. But you
Exactly.
don't. But you don't look like, I look at it and I'm not like grossed out by it. I'm just like,
No,
oh
it's
dang.
not grossed out.
I'm like,
It's
she's fucking badass. She's just really fucking cool. She's a cool
yeah.
character. But like, I mean, they even say it. Like, this is on the back of the hardcover. It says an oppressive American empire. You
Yeah.
know, I mean, they don't hide it. Like, the flag has, instead of the fucking stars, it has a fucking cross.
Yeah. And I really love also that's like Canada versus
Versus
USA.
America, yeah.
Yeah, because the new I don't know how you pronounce that, the Vatican, like the new Vatican is taking place in the USA and the
Oh,
rebellion
the
is in
Vatican, yeah.
the Vatican, yeah. And the little bird, she's like from Canada, right? The whole rebellion is from Canada, so it's like two countries fighting each other, but with two really different like state of mind. And I feel like it's really contrasting because you don't like usually Canada is just like people assume that Canada is a like toned
Peaceful,
down version of the US, you know?
peaceful, and not trying to start shit with people like
Yeah,
we do.
exactly.
That's kind of how. That's how, like, dang, dude, they're never like, you don't see Canada in the news like, oh man, they're trying to start some war or they're invading some country because they want to take their fucking oil. You know, you don't see any of that. And then you look at America and we're just like constantly in the news doing something stupid. And you know what I mean? Like, I don't want people to think like I'm some sort of radical that hates it. But like, there's a lot of stupid shit that our government does, you know, and this book kind of twists it and puts it in a different way in the book. And like, you can see, he obviously like, I think is he American? I don't know. I don't think he's American, right? Darcy. So Darcy's from Canada, from Canada. So it's interesting to see his perspective. Like, this must be, I'm assuming, right? Because I haven't talked to him, but like, I'm assuming this is like the way he perceives America and like kind of how they are and how, you know, like, you could take different things. Like, I think the war with oil
Hmm.
is a perfect example. That's why like I brought that up, you know, and us the war on terror and the excuse in my eyes, in my opinion, of how we went to Iraq like under the guise of like, oh, this is a war on terror, but then we didn't leave and we just continued to stay, and it wasn't about the war on terror anymore. It was about fucking oil, and I think everybody knew that, and that's why like so many people continue to protest. I mean, I went to one against the war in 2000, I think 2009. Like, they were still doing it, man. Like, 2001 was when 9/11 happened and they were still doing the shit. So I like that aspect of the book told through the lens of like a sci-fi like I wouldn't even call it like fantasy. I guess like dark fantasy maybe,
Yeah.
but definitely sci-fi. And there's the journey that Little Bird goes through is really the heart of the story, and then everything else that's surrounding her is um, just added element. But like watching her learn about her past and
Mm-hmm.
her mom and learning who her dad was, and then like the reveal of like her brother and shit and who her fucking real dad is. I'm like, dude, this is fucking heavy shit. Like this is crazy, but it constantly keeps you on your toes to where it's subverting your expectations every time because you think it's going one way and then it doesn't necessarily go that way and it goes another way. And if I had read it the year it came out, I would have said it was in the top 5 books of the year for me. I just
It
didn't read it
was in
that
the
year.
top five book it came out. It was nominated for like so many things, and I remember that it was really like it was everywhere. It was the year it came out. It was really good. That's why I made my first review about this because it was so unexpected.
Again, it's very to me it's very hard for a book to come out. I didn't know who the hell Darcy Van Polges was. I had no idea. He's a filmmaker. And like I hear a lot of that, like, oh, this person was in TV, this person did film, now they're writing a comic book, and I'm like, okay, like half the time it's either average or I guess it's good, But this is phenomenal.
Yeah.
And Ian Bertram's art, I knew of Ian Bertram, but like this made me a fan of his work. It
It's a
really,
perfect duo, I feel. He
yeah,
really perfect artist to illustrate his even the colorist. The colors the
Every,
colors work in this is phenomenal. Incredible. I really
yeah,
love how the color, when they are like the whole story it's like a little bit more like blue, purple, brown tones, but when
mm,
they go into the when we go in the Vatican it becomes like very bright, super like a lot of yellow, bright pink colors, so it's really good contrast of the story.
yeah. The town that for the resistance, Elders Hope, and like
Yeah.
how it's like built into the cave, like everything the world building in here is
Yeah.
it's so fleshed out and
And I really
it's
love how there's no explanation. You don't understand why this character is missing an arm and has like tentacles coming out of it or something. You don't understand that, but you just roll with it. Like you just accept it as you go
yeah,
because it's the world they're living in.
yeah, it's just fucking it's really I'm like as we're talking I'm like flipping through this book and remembering like I mean I didn't put it down. It took me a minute to read it, but I did read this in one sitting and man I kind of want to read it again.
Uh,
It's just
it's
so good.
it's funny because I first read it in singles, right? I got the singles in my pull list, so I was reading it
Mhm.
every like a few weeks or something. And then I got the hardcover and I did a second read, like the full story in one sitting. And I was like, it's even better when you read it in the full. Like it's already good when you read it in with singles, but it's even better when you have the full story all in front of you.
Yeah, and that's like certain times you can tell like a story is better to read in single issues, and
Yeah.
then it does have the overall narrative when you read it in a trade or whatever. But there are those comic books where you're reading it and you're like, this is just one story, and they just cut it, and it doesn't feel like you're getting like it should have just been released as an original graphic novel is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
There's just certain books that I don't like. It's clear. Like, why did you even release it? Why did you break it up into 4 issues, 5 issues, 6 issues? Like, it doesn't read well. And to me, sometimes it loses me, and I'm like, I'm just not going to read this. I'll wait.
Yeah.
And that's also not good because if the sales for the single issues aren't good, you're not guaranteed a trade paperback. No
Yeah.
series has ever guaranteed that. But I think this is one of those series where I would have kept picking it up because there's nothing to stop me from. I mean,
The
it has
chapters
a
are really well defined. Like you can end a chapter and like take a break without like missing something. You can continue, but you can also take a break in between chapters. And I feel like again, the writing is just really well done. Like he had a clear plan of what he wanted to write, and it shows. He he really worked on the details of his story, but also like he really worked on all the little details. He thought about everything. That's how I felt when reading it.
Is that what his name is? The Axe?
Yeah,
I fucking love that guy. That was like, to me,
I love
I think
I
that was
love how
my
he walks
favorite
around
character.
with a Canadian flag on his shirt.
Yeah, I mean, just like, he's so hulking and big, contrasting with how small Little Bird is. You know,
Yeah,
it's like, it's such a funny pairing. And, you know, learning, I think that that was the way that they contrasted what we were seeing in the present with what we saw in the past with Axe, with Little Bird's mom, and the slow buildup to
yeah,
revealing like her lineage and where she came from, and the fucking like Gabriel, the son, like I felt for him. He kind of reminded me of like Joffrey from Game of Thrones, and like I didn't like the dude, but then he fucking kind of redeems himself like
yeah,
towards the end, and I I like every character in here was like very unique to themselves. Uh, they were all standouts, but Axe was my favorite. Next, besides Little Bird, you know, and
yeah. The
yeah,
ending is fantastic. I
yeah,
find that the last issue is fantastic because you like I think it's the last one is the sixth issue, so the fifth issue, the one before the last one,
yeah.
you feel like you kind of get a vibe of what's going on and how it's gonna end, but then the sixth issue comes and it's just like it's not what you were expecting.
That's what I'm
Like,
saying. It's constantly subverting your expectations. You like you throughout the series. Like if I was reading this month to month, I think that I think my experience would have been completely different, but in a
yeah,
good way. Because like I would have had a month to sit on it to wonder like, okay, what's gonna happen? That's the same thing I was talking about in terms of like TV shows. You know, everybody's so used to this binge culture of getting a story right away. But the fun thing about when it's, you know, on a month to month basis or week to week, you know, for shows, is that you get to speculate about it. You get to like talk with your friends that are watching it or reading it and kind of like guess together, like, oh, I wonder what's going to happen. And that's that's what I love about stuff when it's not done in an original graphic novel format. And that's why I kind of wish I would have read this also first in
yeah,
single issues. But not to say that I didn't really have a good experience on it, because I did. But that would have been like sitting in my head. Like I already know. Like I would have been like, oh, this is what's going to happen. And then no. And then another issue would have done the same thing. And I love the fight. There's a fight with her, Little Bird and Bishop, and she just because she literally looks like this, like she looks like a ball of like a cotton ball almost.
yeah,
I don't know how else to say it. And she's like sliding through, and he's like fighting her, and she just keeps fucking. Dude, the fight scenes in here are so visceral, and like you said, they're really gory, but not in a way. I guess it could turn some people off. For me, like I don't watch gory movies, but comic books are a little bit different.
yeah,
You
same.
know what I mean? Like I think if I saw this in a film,
No, I would not
it may
watch
not.
that.
I think it would be a bit much for me to watch in film. Animation, I could probably do it. You know, like it again because it's not like real. I'm not literally seeing somebody's body axed in half or fucking guts spilling out. Like that's not my thing. But in comic books, like I can enjoy it for what it is, especially because of like the level of detail that's being put in here. Matt
Yeah.
Hollingsworth's colors constantly set the mood for each scene that you're in. Aditya Bidkar's lettering is phenomenal too. Like this book has, it's the entire package.
The
Everything about it.
panels too. Like the way the panels are made, so good. Really love.
Yeah,
There's a part in the book where because Little Bird like she kind of like she I don't know like she talks to herself and it's like not in bubbles like in you know like she it's you have bubbles but then she talks to herself at the same time like it's a little bit like weird but you don't get lost and there like sometimes they add like black rectangle throughout like the panel just to like cut through like this is what's happening, this is what she's thinking, and I think that's really incredibly smart. And just the overall layering of this like book, like the panels and everything, it's just I love it. I really love the construction of this book.
oh yeah. I mean, he's constantly playing with the structure. No, no page is alike. You know what I
Exactly.
mean? Like each page, as you're reading it, one page will have a certain panel structure, and then you go to the next page, and there's one small one extremely large one, and then like you said, like that black border at the bottom where it's
Yeah.
just she's like, it's only in our sleep. You know what I mean? Like it's just like one line in a solid black panel.
And you know that like it's her thoughts, you know, like you know that you know who's speaking, you know who's talking at this moment. Like it's just, oh, I love it. I really love it.
Yeah, I mean, it's watching her get captured and tortured, and she just fucking comes back, and she doesn't stand down, dude. She fucking takes that revolution and she brings it to the dude, and she fucking takes him out, and you jump forward towards the end, and she like her journey's not done. And
Yeah.
that's one thing. Like at first, I thought this was going to be 5 issue series. That's it. I don't know when they're going to do another one, but like you said, the spine says book one. So where the fuck is book two? How long am I going to have to wait? I'm assuming a long time because the amount of detail that's put into this art doesn't seem like something you could just whip up a page in a day.
I also think that it wasn't meant to be a big series, because I remember that when it came out, like when the Image Comics announced it, I remember they said it was going to be like a very short story, and it wasn't even going to be in a trade. Like the hardcover was planned, but the trade paperback wasn't planned at the very beginning. It just, as the story gained popularity, they decided to like come out with a trade paperback. So like maybe the writer, I don't think the writer was in the mindset of writing like a next book, but they decided like along the journey to write it a second one. I don't know. I don't have
I
information on this, but
yeah
that's how I feel.
yeah. I mean, I think he left it open ended
Yeah,
to where like he gave himself the room to do it. I mean, you could do a prequel. You could do one that takes place in the past,
that would be
and
cool.
yeah, so you get a little bit more of the backstory. You know, like how did her mom? Why does her mom have like not powers, but like
The
she's a
regeneration like gene
yeah
or something.
yeah. You know what I mean? Like, and that's why the bishop like he was trying to have a kid with her, and fucking why he like he tried to capture Little Bird so he could fucking extract the. I mean, there's just so much stuff that you could build off of with this, and I want to see more. I just want to see more of this
Yeah, of
world.
course.
I want to learn more about the backstory of it. I mean, you could do. I mean, I don't want it to get watered down, but you could do like a whole issue just about the axe, right?
Yeah.
You could do all these characters are that well fleshed out in such a short period of time that you could do a little story about each one. I don't think that that's where he'll go, but you could do it within the context of the miniseries. Like, like,
Yeah. Yeah,
yeah, it's,
there's room to do anything with this book, and that's something very fascinating when you read a story and you're like, wow, like this universe, this world building is so good that you can do anything with it. And that's, for me, that's a sign that it's really like a good creative team. You know, when you can like take this world and just like bring it to any other, like just transform it into anything that you want. That means it's just fantastic.
it's, like, I love when you can pick out in stories, like, what the writer's giving you on the surface, and then the intention behind it. And you're like, on the surface, at Little Bird, there's a revolution, and she's going to fucking destroy this fucking dude because he's oppressive and he's fucking like just killing people in the name of God. When you dig deeper, like you're looking at the human condition, and if you take all the fantastic elements out of it, and you're watching, how oppressive a government can be over not just their own country, but trying to enforce their will upon others
Yeah.
and their beliefs upon others, that's powerful.
But
Like
not just
that.
that, like taking the villain there, he's not doing it for the Lord, he's doing it for himself, but he pretends to do it for God. Like for him is like, I'm doing it for God because I'm the only one who can like speaks to him and bring his wills to the earth or something. But in fact, he's just doing it for himself. He just want to like have the regenerative gene or something just to live longer and be all powerful, but he's just putting it like pretending to do it, like to be like super religious and super like godlike, you know?
Yeah, I mean, and I think that's probably true of
Yeah.
most leaders, you know, like I don't think anybody's like, "Oh, I'm just doing it for the good of people," or I'm doing it in the name of God." Like most radical leaders in history, it's about power. It's
Yeah.
not about anything other than that. They want the power, and like I mean, you see, like his followers don't really know his
Yeah.
motives. You know, like he's manipulated them, he's tricked them. I think you could say that. Same thing with like Hitler, right? Same thing with Napoleon. Like all these people that had all these massive amounts of people following them doing horrendous shit, horrible shit, and their fucking leaders are psychotic. They're crazy. They don't give a fuck about you. They don't give a fuck about anything else other than doing what they believe in some twisted way is right and a way to amass the power for themselves.
Yeah.
And that's why the bishop is like such a great villain in this story because he really like Darcy Van Pogies really captured that aspect of a fucking nutcase leader, the behind the scenes of what you don't see, right, of these like radical leaders. You mostly just see like them like how they talk to the people and how they, because you have to have some sort of charm too to kind of get that many followers.
Yeah.
So you see him charming the people, but then behind the scenes it's just crazy as fuck. All he cares about is like extracting this blood, like, and then it's his daughter, like
Yeah, it's
it's
crazy.
I mean, it's weird. It's really like there's so many weird aspects to this, and like he just really he pulls on so many different emotional things. Like he pulls on your heartstrings because you feel for little bird, and you see her as she's looking in the past at her mom, and her mom's on the run with not one baby but two, and then you learn who the second baby is, and then like little bird hates her fucking brother, but then he sacrifices himself. I mean, there's just so much going on, but it's yeah, I really love the book, and I'm glad that I finally listened to you to
You
read
should
this. You
always
know,
listen to me.
I know, I know. I feel the same thing about my recommendations, but it's hard because like I know that there's certain stuff you won't read. I can't wait to see what they do next. I hope even if they don't give us another Little Bird, I'd like to see this creative team do some more stuff together because it's clear that they have a good
Chemistry.
yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
100%. Yeah, I really love that book. I would recommend it to anybody, but again, I would strongly recommend looking at pictures first just because it's really gore and the art might not be for everybody, although it's gorgeous, but it might not be for everybody. Um, but it's a story that really sticks with you, so I would recommend it. Like it's one of my favorite Image Comics book.
Yeah, I don't. I mean, look at the cover. She's dripping blood. So if that bothers you, don't read the fucking book because that's the least of what you're about to fucking see in the book. Yeah, I think it's. I mean, like even just the back. Like I'm looking at the like brief description. You know, Little
Yeah.
Bird was born into war, and it's the only life she's known. And when her village is destroyed, her mother kidnapped by the oppressive American Empire, she fights to reignite the resistance that once was, and defeat the enemy to save her country, to save her people, and discover her own identity in a world on fire. Like that, if that doesn't make you want to read the book, fuck, I don't know what will. I mean, that's like it's such, and it's that's not even like really doing it justice. That's just like again surface
Yeah.
level. It's all the relationships that take place in between, and it's the journey and the discovery that she goes through that make this such a compelling read. And you pair that with the art that is just like all the eyes are really big too, which kind of has like a manga type vibe, like when I'm looking at it, but they're so expressive and the face is the emotion, the
Yeah.
fucking it's it really is some of the most breathtaking art in a comic book that I've seen in like the past few years. And it's easy to see why this thing was nominated for awards. It's easy to see why it was critically acclaimed. So many people are talking about it. Uh, I made sure to like have Nick at the shop order a few copies because we didn't have any in stock. I'm like, dude, you need to have this book. And that was
Yeah.
before I even read it. I'm just like, people like we don't have it. I can't even take it home to read. And Luckily, I got the hardcover. I think the hardcover might be out of print now. I'm not 100% sure,
Not
but
sure, yeah.
the minute I saw it, the hardcover, I'm like, I'm getting. And then like I think like a month later, the soft cover came out. But yeah, I highly recommend this book. I know you do as well. It's amazing. This is the kind of stuff I wish Image would do more of. You know, something that's unique. And I mean, like the story. I guess if you really break it down, like we've seen this. You could say we've seen a story like this before, but the rest of it around it, you know, you haven't seen. And how many stories are really like 100% original now? They're not.
Yeah.
Everything is a twist on something else because there's so many stories that have been told. You know what I mean? But this doesn't feel like anything I've read before, and I'm excited to see the next book. Hopefully, they announce some sort of project. I don't know when they're going to do it, but
I
I
would
don't
be the
think.
first one to get it. If they announce something, I would be the first one.
Yeah, I don't think you put book one on accident.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that wasn't like, oh shit, we accidentally put book one on there. No, you did that with the intention of doing more. I would be happy if they did like a trilogy, like just 3 books and that's it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, something small and short. Like keep it small and short because that's the strength of this book. It's that you can read the full story and just be satisfied with that story, you know? Like I don't like when they just like
And they stretch it out, yeah.
yeah, I don't like that. But I don't think he's gonna like I think with this book the writer proved to be like a good writer and he knows what he's doing. So I would totally trust him with like a next chapter or next book or something.
Like I said, there's very few books that kind of blow me away now. I mean, I read so many comic books on a daily, sometimes basis, weekly basis that when something stands out like this and resonates after I'm done reading it, a week, a month, you know, a few months down the line, that's when I know it's something special. And that's what this book did to where I knew it as I was reading it, but then when I still thought about it and I could remember so many key aspects of it, because sometimes like I'll read a story and like it leaves my head like shortly after where you could ask me something about it. I'm like, I can't really remember some of the fine details because that's what happens when I read too much. Because sometimes it's like, I
Yeah.
don't want to say like I power through stuff, but I've told this to Dylan, like, I don't mean to, but I read too fast sometimes. You know, like I don't really like slow down and take the time. Like this I did because I was like going over the art. But that's sometimes like the negative is that I have so much, so like part of me is like, I gotta get through this. I gotta get through all these books. I gotta get through this pile. And so the stories leave my mind. I'll remember like little things about them or like the overall like general idea. But Little Bird, like I remember, I still probably you ask me 6 months from now, I'll still remember most of what I read in there because it was that memorable.
Yeah.
And I always wish that like more stuff would be like that when I'm reading, but it's not the case with comics, you know, like so when you get these projects, like hold on to them, man, and that's why like I want to see more because if this one did that for me, like what else can these guys do that I'm gonna love? You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like I think this is his first comic book. It's
Yeah,
fucking
I think it's his
that's
first, yeah.
that's that's pretty dope. That's you know what I mean? Like how often you could be writing for comics is way different than writing for film and TV.
Yeah.
That's why, like I said, it's very hit or miss when they jump in and do stuff like this because like now you're writing scenes, but like you have to leave it to the artist and like just like the way you're describing it, is it right? Are you giving the artist enough? And this is a 10 out of 10 for me.
Yeah,
I don't
100%.
I don't I can't find anything wrong with the book. There really is nothing. There's no negatives about it. From the striking cover of the simplicity of like the white background with snow falling and she's just standing there, you know, like face completely covered, and you're just like, what the fuck is that? Like, what is that a human? Like, you can't even. Like, she doesn't even look human, dude. She looks like some sort of like animal.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, she really does. So yeah, I mean, I can't say anything else. I'm just running it. I'm gonna just keep repeating myself, but I love this book. I think everybody should read it. I think that it transcends so many different genres and so many different tastes in comics that I think that whether you like superhero stuff or you like books like Saga or you like books like Love and Rockets or like this is a story that anybody could read, I think, and enjoy. I don't think that it's pigeonholed into like one type of reader.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. Yeah, for me too, it's a 10/10. And I mean, I like harassed you and Dylan to read it, so I will do the same to anybody else. It's a
Yeah.
really great book, and like everything you said is totally right. I really think that it's an amazing read.
All right. Well, I mean, that's all I got for the book. And I think we're gonna read Die next week. I think you're gonna join me again. We'll give Dylan another break,
Break.
another break because Dylan's still gonna be doing the weekly reads with me for like the single issues that come out, and we'll talk about that. But he's just as tired as I am, I'll let him have let him have a break. So we'll read Die by Kieran Gillen, Stephanie Hans next week, which I think this will be both of our second reads, right?
Yeah.
This is only my second time that I'm going to read it, so we'll do that next week. And yeah, make sure you guys also check out our Thought Balloon episodes that we have on the channel. I have one that I still need to edit that that I'll get to. I'll be posting it soon, but we have a lot of other stuff on the thing if you want to see more stuff with Jen and I. And if you're not already following us, make sure you follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at The Comic Lounge. You can follow Jen at Life of a Geeky Mind on Instagram. Make sure you hit the bell icon so you're notified every time a new video goes up. Like, follow, and subscribe. And on that note, we're out.